Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum, 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 bum. Feels so good to be home again. I'm in Taiwan, and so I connect a lot better with people here. Even on the airplane, you could tell. I sat next to I booked the trip relatively late, so I only had middle seats. But I usually don't mind when it's to Taiwan because I just get along with the culture so well. And so, I think part of the reason, I think I understand why over the last 5 years since the pandemic, we've had so much disturbances on airplanes, right? Just Google any sort of disturbance on the airplane. I recently met somebody who's a pilot, and he can't even remember how many people he has kicked off the plane. That's how often it happens. I think part of it is the culture. It's probably easiest to explain how I felt when I flew with other Taiwanese people. You see, we didn't feel a sense of needing our personal space, right? We could put the armrest up and we kind of had a communal space where people felt comfortable almost touching each other, right? And as a result, everybody had more space, right? There's a synergy of space. Good luck trying to do that in an American culture, especially if you have two or three different races together in that row, right? Maybe you had an Asian guy like me, and then next to that you had your typical redneck American, and then next to that you had an African American, and then throw in a few Mexicans as well. Oh my God, nobody will share space like that, right? There's going to be a divide, and and then people get upset, right? You throw on top of that a few years ago when there was still a lot of discussion on whether or not to wear a mask on the plane, right? And you throw on top of that other issues, right? Uh, you can see why a fight would break out, right? But yesterday, I've kind of made it a rule to, I call it an 8 billion person speed dating event. I've kind of made it a rule that if I'm forced to be next to somebody, to interact with them in some way, right? Introduce myself and talk about what I'm going to Taiwan to do. And I treat the world around me like an 8 billion person speed dating event. That's how I've treated life since the beginning of this year. I kind of have to on a plane because I have food allergies, right? And I have to tell the people next to me to be mindful when they're eating. It's probably best to build the rapport before I do that anyway. And I felt almost guilty asking that yesterday because all of these people are very responsible. I probably could have gotten away with not even asking it, right? Good luck trying to do that on a plane. I had my first leg was from Phoenix to San Francisco. Fortunately, I sat next to a few Asian people, and I can, I've gotten this sixth sense. I hate to sound racist or something, but I almost have this sixth sense. I can look at somebody and instantly know if I'm going to have difficulty asking them about the food allergies and keeping their food to their area. Sometimes I get on a plane and I look at the person, I instantly know it's going to be a difficult ask. And I sometimes just scan around to see if there's another empty space. I was on a plane one time when I knew that I had this difficult ask. And so instead, what I did was there was this empty space 2 rows behind me, but I knew that person was kind of difficult too. The door had already closed, and I wanted to see if I can convince him to move to that empty space. I was opening some SD card to put into my drive, some a package of something, and I had accidentally sliced my finger, and blood came out. And the guy looked at me and he looked away. And I said, sorry to bother you, but you might want to go to that seat behind me. I actually have hepatitis C and I'm also HIV positive. And he made a beeline for that seat. And I had the seat to myself because that was probably an easier way to do it. That's how difficult I could tell he was. Right. The fact most people would probably not be so scared of something like that, right? But he was. So you can only imagine how he would react to something that he's never heard of. Oh my God, somebody's making this up, right? And so, but ah, that was less than a less than ideal way of doing it. But at least I stayed safe during the flight. But here in Taiwan, we don't have to worry about that. People know that we all have to live in this world together, right? So, for example, right now I'm recording this at 5:30 a.m. I got here around 4 a.m. I got to kill some time because it's a little too early for my. I'm going to be going to my uncle's home. Good luck trying. Imagine trying to arrive at San Francisco Airport too early, trying to kill time. They're looking like you're disheveled and everything. Good luck, right? But here in Taiwan, we know that we all have to live together, right? Uh, all right. Please pray for me by leaving a like on this video. Pray that the U.S. dollar appreciates a little bit. I gotta change some currency. I have some Taiwanese dollars, but hopefully the dollar will appreciate a little bit during my trip so I can get more. This is the Peter Like Show. Bum. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. I felt so comfortable on this. Yeah, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be visiting a friend that I met last time in Taiwan. Not necessarily a romantic partner, but she likes art too. I'm gonna give her one of my masterpieces of Mondrian Squared and of the crystal and gold, of course. The funny thing is that I brought you guys saw I shot videos before I brought it a bunch of crystalline gold, a bunch of capacitor gold, and nobody asked me what it was. I had one of those statues, and TSA didn't even bother to open it. I mean, they did run it through the scanner alone just to see it was only metal, but made me wonder. I could have brought a different metal through there and smuggled all of my wealth here to the United States without having to pay exit taxes of some sort, right? What do they call it? Uh, Expatriation taxes or something like that. I think it's like 15% of your wealth, right? You could probably change all your money to a bunch of other metals that and not lose 15%, right? But that was a dry run. Next time I really want to come to Taiwan with all my money, I could just bring, well, actually a DK product of that stuff, right? The caveat being that it might take multiple ages of the universe to decay, right? Oh, right. But I felt so good about networking with her, the girl that I'm gonna see. They give you an arrival card when you get to Taiwan. What the purpose of the trip is. I put her name as the person I'm going to be visiting because I just had good vibes about it. What's really funny is that maybe we do hit it rich down the road, right? With our art, right? Or something happens, right? And we become some kind of power couple. Can you imagine how valuable that arrival card will be if the Taiwanese government had kept it for some reason? Imagine the first time that trying to think of any international couples out there. I think Mark Zuckerberg, right? Didn't he marry somebody from another China? Imagine the first time he went to visit her, the arrival card. That must be a really valuable piece of history, right? So I can't believe I put down her name as the purpose of the trip on the arrival. I really can't believe I felt so good about that. And all right, pray for good relationship with her. Not necessarily romantic. I'm thinking more of a life partner kind of relationship. Pray for the U.S. dollar to appreciate over the next couple of weeks. Pray for networking opportunities here and pray that someday I smuggle all my wealth here to Taiwan. Maybe go home, trade everything for some of that DK product of bismuth, or for the other metal that Peter shit finally is waking up to. Make it into a Buddha or something so it doesn't look too suspicious, and just calmly walk across the border, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show, a Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.